After an absence of 17 years, international rallying returned to Jamaica. The Mazda Esso Superoil International Stages Rally would prove to be the most demanding and spectacular that Jamaican motorsports fans had ever seen. 10 overseas teams from Sweden, the UK, the USA, Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago had come to match their skills against the best that Jamaica had to offer. Names like David Llewellyn, the Olopson brothers, Stephen Stefan, Tom Ottey and Penty Auricula were household names on the international circuit. Penty Auricula, indeed himself a World Rally champion, had honoured the Jamaica Motor Club by consenting to be the clerk of the course. 2.5 days of top-class rallying would see them running wheel to wheel through 10 parishes with top Caribbean drivers like Peter Moody, Pinky McGann, Alan Wilkie, Duncan Stewart, Colin Whittingham, to name just a few of the 36 starters who assembled at the National Stadium for the start on Friday, December 6th.
Look up the sun of the
The rally is 3 days long. I think Sunday will be the real rally. Friday night and Saturday, you've got to keep the car on the road.
We're going really for reliability more than speed at this time.
It's very different to the car.
Never, you gotta make every step forward, one, even if it hurts.
It's going to be a long rally. And once the car is reliable, I think we'll do.
And
Toyota pickup. The engine has been modified, but it's just fuel injected, no turbo, about 150 horsepower.
Well, it's a 300 horsepower car, four-wheel drive, a 323 Mazda, and it has been, well prepared, factory repaired, so I think we should do it.
Well, we expect that this rally will be quite good, and it's our first time in Jamaica rallying and all of that.
I propose that I will have Muki's Babylon right on time.
Psyched to go fast here, and
Here with them as well. This will be a new development in Jamaica that will be, will be supported by the public and all the rest of us involved with this project.
From the first Open, Llewellyn driving a Lancia Integrale showed his class. A Stages Rally is the most demanding and exciting motorsport sanctioned by FISA, the world body governing motorsport. It's flat-out driver skill and the vehicle's reliability and performance are of paramount importance, unlike other rallies. Many of the less powerful cars would be around at the end to prove that it was an event of changing fortunes. Every entrant had a chance. Gypsum Quarry Special Stage in St. Thomas would afford the drivers their first real opportunity to unleash the full potential of their cars. No one held back. First, the Class 8 cars. Llewellyn and Tennant in a Lancia Integrale. Noel King and Robert Wan in a Mitsubishi Eclipse from Mobay. Stewart and DeMercado, who were among the strongest and fastest contenders in their Suzuki Swift four-wheel drive. The Flying Swedes, Blomqvist and Bjorkman, driving a VW Golf 16-valve like their lives depended on it. King and Chambers, another Mobay entry in a specially prepared Mitsubishi Eclipse. Jamaican champion Peter Moody and co-driver Kevin Minot in a Mazda 323 four-wheel drive. The Olofsons in a four-wheel drive Mazda 323. Nick Mackey and Clint Brooks drove a 1985 Peugeot 205 GTI, one of the Barbadian entries. Pinky McGann and Mike Fennell Jr. in a beautifully prepared Mazda 323 four-wheel drive. Tom Ottey and Pamela McGarvey thoroughly enjoyed themselves driving a Mazda 323 GTX. Jeffrey Panton and John Ralston in an Isuzu Ermsha. Jamaican Dover Raceway champion David Somerville Jr. and Justin Morin in their 1990 Hyundai XL. Mark Moody and Stephen Sykes in another Hyundai XL. The other Barbadian entry, Alan Wilkie and Neil Bernard, driving a 1988 Suzuki Forza GTI, which they drove very hard indeed. Rary and King, 1989 Mazda 323 four-wheel drive. Stratton King and Adrian Armstrong, Mitsubishi Eclipse. Fong Yi and Lawrence, 1978 Ford Escort. Gordon and Makel's 1987 Opel Corsa. Trinidad and Tobago's Phillips and Macmillan 1985 Mitsubishi Lancia Turbo. The Rickmans 1976 VW Scirocco. Prendergast and McDowell 1966 Ford Cortina. Stewart and Fowles, 1990 Suzuki Swift GTI. The American team of Gooch and Gooch in a 1989 Toyota pickup. Whittingham and Lord, Daihatsu Charade GTI. David Carr and Errol Anderson, 1976 Ford Escort. Jeremy McConnell and Hugh Hutchinson's 1989 Daihatsu Charade. Samuels and Horton, 1985 Suzuki Forza. Babulal and Williams came from Trinidad and Tobago with this 1983 Nissan Sunny. The Nelsons, 1990 Opel Corsa. Veteran and Smith in a 1975 Ford Escort. McDaniel and Elliott, 1983 Toyota Starlet. Jamaican Ian Gibson and Trinidadian Lyndon Mohammed, Toyota Starlet. Rogers and Marston, 1985 Suzuki GA1000. Chin and LaCroix, 1991 Lada 1500. Joseph Taylor and Kelly Zadie drove a 1989 Daihatsu Feroja, while Desmond Chai and Nigel Gulab rounded out the Class 1 entries in their 1990 Isuzu pickup. It's on these stages that the real competition takes place. It's a race against the clock. On each stage, the cars are started at 1-minute intervals. Times are recorded from start to finish for each competitor. The winner is the fastest car over the stages. The pace was fast and furious. Most of the stages were held on private property and so were closed to the public. But there were specially selected spectator points open to the public, and these had been published in the press. For many, the rally almost ran across their doorsteps, a glorious opportunity to see the masters of their craft at work. Friday's sixth special stage was Airy Mount number 1. By this, the teams knew just what they were in for. Already at least 2 were on their way out. These were the legendary St. Thomas Bathroads, and they testified to the fact that this was one of the least developed parishes in the island. Peter Moody and Kevin Minot took Aulus Valley, Pira, and Airy Mount almost as if they had rehearsed them, but they were being pressured. Blomqvist, Llewellyn, Olofsson, Rayner King, and Duncan Stewart were not holding anything back. While these Class 8 cars dominated Friday's stages, they were not having it all to themselves. Time and time again, the Class 7 Suzuki of Welty and Bernard split the Class 8 field with their pint-sized powerhouse. Pertingham and Lord in the Class 6 Daihatsu Charade were not to be outdone either, and kept hammering away. The Olofssons in particular had a lot of hard driving to do. They had done particularly badly at the National Stadium Parkway lot, and now they had something to prove. race leaders were driving flat out, sometimes with the very tires shredded to pieces by the tough Jamaican roads. To stop would mean at best the loss of precious points. At worst, it meant running the risk of being hit from behind by a flying competitor on the narrow roads. The service crews were hard-pressed to keep up with their team cars. They would be disqualified for being serviced during any of the stages. For all practical purposes, it was every man and woman for themselves, and the fastest and most reliable would win.
Not too bad. A little bit bumpy, but pressing on regard.
Quite well. Yeah. Durability is the key word, and we have that in our bag. So that we are going to be there at the finish, running quite as good as when we started.
Very fine.
How's the car performing?
Uh-huh.
How's the vehicle performing?
Isuzu and Toyota.
And how is it?
Very fine.
Very fine.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Enjoying the rally?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, yeah, indeed.
What's up, guys?
So far, here the rally is going well, but there are a few problems with some of the cars. We have had our share of problems as well.
The gas and service holes were a welcome relief. It meant the first time some of the entrants would be able to make repairs to their vehicles since the start of the event. But it would only be a 30-minute rest.
Oh, that's very nice.
Well, that's the first one.
Pressed with Pepsi, yes.
Both of them must be down. When both of them are down.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Good rally?
Yeah. Very good rally.
Competition?
Yes, good.
Very good so far. Seemed to be well organized. Just that we had some problems and we had a flat on one of the stages, but we were 7 miles down. And we got a flat on the first corner.
Very good. Otherwise, it's pretty good.
Course is fantastic. It's well marshaled, well signed, and the instructions are perfect. We haven't had a better rally yet.
It's been a good event so far. I think we won a couple of stages, but we have had some problems. We're working on them now, and we're continuing on to the finish tonight.
It's fine. How's the course? It's good.
The car?
It's very good.
Kind of rough, but fun. Still fun. Enjoying myself. Finally in a fast car.
Well, tomorrow is going to be the, the sort of separating the men from the boys. Because I think it's going to be double the amount of special stages, and it's certainly double the amount of time.
Just night stage. I don't like night stages. I'm a day man. I can't see good at night.
Any problem?
No, not at all. We learn today, and tomorrow we try harder.
And then Sunday, you win?
Yes, of course. We try hard for that, yeah.
Now would come the hard part, returning along the very same stages they had traveled on all day, but this time in the opposite direction and in the dead of night. This is the view from inside the car of the Swedish pair, the Olofsson brothers. After just 14 of the 51 stages, 4 cars would have pulled out of the Mazda Esso Superoil International Stages Rally. The true test was yet to come. After 9 hours and 14 brutal special stages, the Swedish team of Blomqvist and Björkman had established a lead of 1 minute 0.5 seconds over their closest rivals. That position was held by the Jamaican team of Stewart and Demercado in their highly competitive 4-wheel drive Suzuki Swift. It was a wide margin for the stages rally, but the Swedes had fought every inch of the way for it. Relentless pressure had come from Llewellyn and Tennant. Their first day performance had been somewhat checkered. Llewellyn was driving the Lancia the only way he knew how, flat out. But its overheating engine was not proving equal to the task. This was a problem that was to finally sideline him at Duckenfield. Surprisingly, the fastest team was Swedish. The Olofssons had pulled back 2 minutes 15 after losing over 4 minutes at the stadium's dexterity test. Also among the front runners were the Mitsubishi of Rainer King and Colin Chambers, and the 4-wheel drive Mazda 323 of McGann and Fennell, both in Class A. However, it was not going to be a test of sheer horsepower. Whittingham and Lord's Daihatsu was to make a strong case. The international team of Gibson and Mohammed driving a Class 2 Starlet, and Howard Samuels and co-driver Stuart Horton in a Class 3 Suzuki Forza were showing Jeffrey Panton and John Ralston in their Isuzu. And Peter Moody and Kevin Minot, that the big boys, had a fight on their hands. By now, 4 of the 36 starters had abandoned the event. 22-year-old Dover champion David Somerville and 15-year-old co-driver Justin Morin blew their head gasket after their Hyundai overheated. The powerful 4-wheel drive Mazda 323 GTX of Mabay's Rary and King were among the first casualties from Class 7. Also out were Rennie McDaniel and Vincent Elliott in their Toyota Starlet, which left 2 contenders to battle for Class 2 honors. The Trinidadians Andrew Phillips and Stanley McMillan crashed their Mitsubishi Lancia Turbo, effectively putting them out of the race. The 6:30 start from Executive Motors on Saturday morning saw 32 entries facing the starting marshal's flag. First off for Caymanas were Blomqvist and Bjorkman with a time of 1 hour 8 minutes 57 seconds. Car number 3, Stewart and Demercado were next off with a time of 1 hour 10:27. Otti and McGarvey and car number 10 were in third spot in 1 hour 10:33. Then came the Olofsons with 1 hour 10:57. The Bajans, Wilkie and Bernard were next with a time of 1 hour 11:14. Then came the Mobe Mitsubishi team of King and Chambers in 1 hour 12:18. McGann and Fennell were seventh, their times 1 hour 12:31. The Class 6 entry of Whittingham and Lord were strong front runners among the heavyweights, 1 hour 12:43. King and One with their Mitsubishi Eclipse were in with 1 hour 13:49. The surprise of the day was this one, a standard Class 3 entry, Samuels and Horton, 1 hour 15:31. It was on to Caymanas for an eventful day's rally. The day's first special stage was fast and furious. The drivers were now thoroughly familiar with their cars and with the competition. Most importantly, they were rested and the cars had been serviced overnight.